All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 360 Sports Show, coming to you live as we do every Sunday at 11 a.m. I am Abe Pizzelli. He is Christian Lauber. You can reach us anytime throughout the show on any of the comment sections of the live stream. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, and Twitch. You can also email the show at any time, the360sportshow at gmail.com. And if you can't catch the show live, you can always listen to the podcast version of the show through Sounder FM or wherever you get your podcasts from. So that's all the pleasantries. We do have a special guest today. Zach Weiss will be joining us here on the show, and we are going to get right to him to talk some NBA action here on the show. So Zach is a 2018 graduate of Endicott College. He's a play-by-play man. He's a reporter. He's worked for numerous college and professional organizations. He's the founder of SportITood and Across the Cavs podcast. We're going to be talking a lot of NBA with him here today. And he wrote this to us that he considers himself to be an anomaly with his sports fandoms as a Cavaliers, Ravens, and Nationals fan. And I feel like that needs some explaining because that is just very strange. So a big welcome to the show to our friend, Zach Weiss. Zach, how you doing?
I'm good, Andrew, Christian. I'm glad to be here. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about why my three teams are located in three different areas that are nowhere near where I live.
Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, I just want to start there. Like, can I just get some background on this?
Yeah, so we'll start with football, then work our way up to basketball. So basically, long story short, I grew up a very stubborn kid. I was basketball, right? Now I loved the NBA, and so I just want to talk about basketball, right? I don't care about these other sports. And my brother was a huge baseball and football guy. He's 4 years older than me. He always told me, Zach, you got to get into these other sports. So finally, one day we had a long card. He's like, Zach, you got to do it. I'm like, all right, here comes football. So I become an NFL fan, and I tell him, hey, Josh, here's what I want to do. I want to pull up the list of teams. I want no facts. I want nothing. I just want to see the list. I want to see the names and mascots. And somehow I landed between Ravens and Falcons. This was summer 2005, by the way. Ravens went 14-2 the following season. I was a lucky guy. Just picked the Ravens totally out of nowhere. I mean, it was random. I knew nothing. I didn't know who R.I.P. who Steve McNair was. I didn't know who Jamal Lewis was. Who's Ed Reed? Who's Ray Lewis? I just liked their colors. So here we are now, a Super Bowl, 5 trips to the conference championship. Nationals is pretty simple. I've been a Nationals fan since their inception. My brother grew up a diehard Red Sox fan, despite only going to Boston twice before becoming a fan, I think. I don't even know when it was. When he was 14, he won a fantasy baseball championship with a team named Poppy 4 MVP. It's still in his room through all these years. This was way back when. But anyway, I didn't want to be a Red Sox fan. I wanted my own route to a fandom. And the Expos relocated, and I wanted a new team. And I really didn't need to bandwagon anybody. So I'm like, they're new. And then slowly I became a bigger Nationals fan. I got to the park in 2012. Obviously, the World Series was unreal. So that's the National. That's a little simpler. And the Cavs, also simple. I was a big Nets fan. We lived 30 minutes from where the Nets used to play in East Rutherford. So we used to always go to the Meadowlands for games. It was awesome. But eventually they'd relocate. That wouldn't affect me at all. I'm 7 years old. I'm going into second grade. The NBA draft is happening. There's this really cool prospect named LeBron coming out from St. Vincent, St. Mary's, projected number 1 picks, next Michael Jordan-esque player. No one's had this much hype in 20 years. And I'm like, I'm just going to ride with the Cavs. This guy's going to be pretty cool. I'm 7. I don't know what bandwagoning is yet. I'm like, all right. And then we'll fast forward 6 years. It's his last year with Cleveland before he leaves. We didn't know he was going to leave. I said, hey, am I a LeBron fan or a Cavs fan? There's no question I'm a Cavs fan. So I stopped kind of rooting LeBron, and started to really love the team.
Thank you. There's a friend of our show who is a LeBron fan, and I find it a little insufferable at times. So thank you for being a fan of a team.
They're better. Now it's rough, but I'll tell you guys, I haven't missed the Cavs. I know we're going to talk about them. I haven't missed the Cavs game this year, which is the first time ever I've been able to catch the first 30 because I'm not announcing at night anymore. So let's carve out time to watch the boys. But it's tough times now, but I think that the real fans enjoy these rebuilds, even though it might sound stupid, but you enjoy a rebuild because you see what these guys are made of when their backs are against the wall and who's going to rise to the occasion, and how much does someone really like a team if they only care about them when they're winning. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd agree. I mean, I enjoyed when the Celtics were doing their rebuild those first couple of years because guess what? Ticket prices were cheaper. Got to actually go to some games.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
you're like Brad Stevens though, Andrew. You like your crappy players. That's just what it is. You like those
Oh,
guys
come on now.
come in and you like the low
That's
win
not
team.
fair.
It's a good fun ride to the first round and out of the playoffs.
Hey, listen. Calling some there were 2013. I'm not saying 2013-14. No shot. That was crappy. 2014-15. That was good. Ship get the Chris Humphreys and the Jordan Crawfords of the world out of here.
Sure, yeah.
Bring in more
Like
of the Jake
IT,
Crowders and IT. Those were fun teams. Hey, it's fun. Like Zach said, when you're a fan, to see it get built back up again. Now for me, this is where I'm with you, Christian. Like now is like the boiling point, right? It's like we've gotten to here. Now it's time to do something. If it all crumbles apart again, then I become Christian. No, Zach, I'm sure you know. Christian's more of the pessimist. I'm more of the optimist. But you know when things are going bad is when I start to get pessimistic and get angry. So that we're almost there with the Celtics, but we'll get to the Celtics in a bit. I'll let Christian keep on going here.
Yeah, I mean we were kind of on track there anyway, but let's just start with the Cavs a little bit. Obviously, you're a Cavs fan, so they started out pretty well, but kind of came back to earth here, 10-20. But what do you make of this squad right now?
Yes, I don't even know if it's Earth. I mean, I don't know what planet they started the season on. You know, honestly, getting the Dragon Ball Z, they were probably playing their games in the hyperbolic time chamber, which is why everything was so good for them. Then, you know, they have to go fight the big boss because, all right, your year of training, which actually was only a day, is up. So they were 3-0. They beat Philly without Embiid, Charlotte, and Detroit. The Detroit game was incredible because double overtime, they were down by 6 or more inside of 90 seconds in both the fourth quarter and first overtime. And 7-20 since. There's three things I point to for this total struggle. Number one, Andre Drummond. I came in with high expectations for him this year. He was actually playing great ball. I would have legitimately given him an all-star nod based on his first 15, 16 games. And then a fellow by the name of Jarrett Allen. If you've ever seen somebody that's 6 inches taller because of their hair, not Iman Shumpert, but Jarrett Allen. There's your guy. He was playing great. I think it was messing with whatever was going on in Drummond's head, thinking he had to do more, started forcing it even more. He was terrible. So I think his fall and kind of lack of chemistry with anybody hurt. I think number two, the early season injuries made it impossible for them to get continuity. I mean, it's great that Garland and Sexton are both back, but Darius missed 8 games earlier. Colin missed 5 games for a long stretch. Jetty Osman, who's a small forward, was their only point guard besides Damian Dotson, right? Lamar Stevens, who entered as a power forward, was playing 2 guard. There were some tough times, you know, and I think that when everyone's getting hurt, and I know you're seeing that with Boston, we'll get to, they're playing the 12th, 13th, and 14th guys as starters. What do you expect? And now they played an extremely tough stretch. Every team's been over 500. They faced the Bucks twice, the Clippers twice. The Spurs game got canceled for now. I don't think they would have won that one. They got destroyed by Portland, destroyed by Denver twice. They're going to figure it out. I know that for a fact. At some point, I think that might even be tonight, but it just hasn't worked. And number 3, I think, is unrealistic expectations for Colin Sexton. He's a great scorer. You guys have seen. Obviously, I watch more Cavs than a lot of other people, respectively, because you make time for your team, right? Like, if I was a Celtic fan, there's no doubt I would be able to tell you everything about Javonte Green's life if I was watching their broadcast. I can't, unfortunately. But here's the thing. Colin was averaging 30 a game for the first month. So it's like, here he is. Everybody, ESPN said he's out of the top 100. The Cavs' best player under 25 was supposed to be Dylan Windler, according to one of the outlets I read. So here's Colin Sexton coming kind of out of nowhere, even though he did this last year, to the point where people want to watch the Cavs. And then I think that people expected him to just turn into Kobe or now even a Zach LaVine to compare him to someone playing now every night where he can just score those points, and he can't. His role is to be the leading scorer, but he can't score 30 every game. That's not what he does. If he gets an efficient 25, that's just as good if he's forcing shots to get 40. So I think Drummond doing whatever it is he's done, injuries, and unreasonable expectations on Sexton have forced him to feel pressure to play extremely well. That's why we're 10-20 after being 3-0 and even 10-11 just 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. We're speaking with Zach Weiss from SportITood and Across the Cavs. If you have questions for him, you can drop those in the comment sections of any of the live streams or email the show, the360sportshow at gmail.com at any point, and we'll get to those questions. A lot of guys, the Cavs, aside from, like you said there, not having Sexland together often enough has been a factor for them. I also feel like there's a little bit of there's guys with uncertainty, right? So I feel like the Kevin Love situation has been weird for the past couple of years with them. Now Andre Drummond, when they made the Drummond trade, it was like, what are we doing? They still had Tristan Thompson at the time. It was like, what is going on? Why are they just assembling bigs? Do they want to play like 5 centers at once like you do in 2K when you're feeling weird? So the trade deadline's coming. Drummond's a name that's cropped up. Let's start with a couple of these guys. I mentioned Kevin Love. What's going to happen with him in his Cleveland? Is he just going to morph into player coach? Is he going to get moved? What's going on with Kevin Love?
Yeah, so it seems like he's trending in the right direction. So my guess would be he plays on Tuesday or Wednesday, which is great because 2 years ago he was hurt basically the whole season, came back with about a month and a half left. Last year he was healthy and he played really well. I thought he was all-star caliber despite obviously not getting voted into the game because the Cavs lost every single night. But no, I hope he sticks for now because there are teams that want him, but I think, and we're going to talk about him, I think Andre Drummond is the main thing. Like, can they find any move before they have to buy him out? Because it will be a buyout right after the deadline if nothing happens. And I hope it doesn't take that long. I hope they're working now to make sure something happens. But, look, Kevin Love is, 31, 32. He's been in the city for 7 years. He's been the subject of trade rumors every season since he got there after his first season, which is crazy because 20-10, consummate professional, locker room loves him. There was that one issue with Sexton that was blown out of proportion last year. That's literally nothing. I want him to stay because you put Love in the lineup, they actually win games. And look, you can tank all you want. If you don't win some games at some point, it's just going to remain a tank. Like, you don't want to just keep lose to get a better pick because at some point you're building your core out of these losses. When they have to win, they're going to be like, oh, wait, we have to do new things now that didn't work, which is why I hate tanking. But no, keep Love. Maybe look in the offseason because Larry Nance is also hurt right now. And if they don't have either one of them, we're going to see Jetty Osman, we're going to see Torian Prince and Dylan Windler, Lamar Stevens getting all of the power forward minutes where the Cavs are now getting eaten alive on the glass. You need a real power forward. The Cavs could use a stretch forward, but not a 3 playing the 4, right? So Kevin Love is perfect. He can shoot. He's a very good passer, and his outlet passes might be better than Baker Mayfield's Hail Marys.
Who is interested in him? Like, if he does get moved, who would be a team that, say, swoops in and says, hey, Cleveland, we know you want to keep Kevin Love, but we really want him, and we'll give up first-round picks, some prospect or something because they're a team trying to go all in this year. If there's teams that there's whispers about, who would they be for Kevin Love?
See, I haven't heard a ton other than Brooklyn, although it wouldn't work unless they traded Spencer Dinwiddie. And if I'm Sean Marks, I am saying no way.
No way.
No way. Spencer Dinwiddie was a borderline all-star last year. He's gotten better every year. He was written off by 3 teams, and that's finally give him a shot. Look what he does. I mean, that's who he was in college. That's why one injury scares us all. But if you get to the NBA and you stay healthy for long enough, you're going to do what Spencer does if you showed out in college. No way they can get him. They can't bring Joe Harris back. If the Nets traded Joe Harris and sent him back to Cleveland, which I wish would happen, then I would fire the GM immediately because Joe Harris is basically shorter, more effective Kevin Love as far as shooting goes, right? And he can play enough defense to keep him on the court for 30, 35 minutes. And if not them, maybe Dallas. I know they have an interest in Drummond. But imagine a lineup that hypothetically had Luka passing it to Kristaps and Love. You have size on defense at the forward spots, and both guys can now shoot the 3 over 35%. I think that would be lethal. But I don't know what they could offer. I don't know that that's going to happen. But Dallas has a lot of interesting trade chips that they can give the Cavs for guys that can help the Cavs get a few wins late in the year and maybe help them build some identity. So,
now, what about Andre Drummond? I mean, he's the name that's been all over the place. As you said, there could be probably a buyout. So I feel like that probably hurts their position to be able to negotiate trades because teams could just say, hey, we'll just sit here and wait. So do you think he gets traded, and who to and for what? What makes the most sense? Give us the whole rundown here on what's going on with Andre Drummond.
Yeah, so I know a lot of other Cavs podcasts have done these hypothetical scenarios of every team, and I laud them for that, trying to make this math work. I mean, there's a reason Bobby Marks gets paid the big bucks to join Woj and break everything down. I think what he does is great. I am not good at breaking down. He makes 28 million. Okay, if he makes 4.1 and he makes 7.3 and he makes 13.8, does this add up to 28? No. So I basically look at it as who needs him, right? Who needs Andre Drummond? I mean, honestly, I can't believe I'm saying this, but nobody. Toronto thinks they need to, yeah, look, I like him. He's still putting up decent numbers sometimes, but like Toronto is starting to figure it out. They don't need to get this big center. If they bring in Andre Drummond, what's that going to do to the backcourt? Because Drummond likes to play make and sometimes handle the ball. Lowry and Van Vliet have this great system, and when one of them's out of the lineup, the other one just does more. One's older, one's a little younger, but they are a great tandem. You don't need another guy. Pascal Siakam's already doing that. I mean, if I'm the Raptors, I just want a pure shot blocker if I want a big man. I don't know who that is. I'm sure there's other guys out there. And then Dallas, I know, has mentioned, I mean, he'd be a major upgrade over Cauley Stein and Dwight Powell, no question. Again, would that be bad for Luka to have a center that does too much, right? Because Dallas is who they are because Luka Doncic, just like Trae Young in Atlanta, have these ridiculously high usage rates, but that's how they best run possessions, right? Get some screens, move the ball, and you want him making the play with 5 seconds, whether it's a pass or a shot. And so I don't know. I originally thought maybe Portland for him or McGee, but then Portland seems to be just fine with Enes Kanter, again, just like they were 2 years ago when Nurkic was hurt. So we'll see, but I don't know if the Cavs get anything for him. I mean, it's funny. I was like, LOL, when I saw those Brooklyn's going to get him on a buyout, but now I think that could be likely. Although I will just close with this. I don't think he's right for Brooklyn. Brooklyn does not need another guy like that. They just need someone that can throw down dunks, maybe go one-on-one once or twice a game inside of 5 feet to the basket, and, dunk it and block it. That's all they need in a big man. Clearly they haven't found that yet because they cut Norville Pell after like 2 weeks.
If you had to put your money somewhere and say, this is what will happen out of those options, which one is most likely in your mind?
I can see Dallas is weird because they picked up James Johnson in a trade over the summer. He's making $16 million. They got Cauley Stein. I just feel like I can picture Drummond in a Dallas jersey. Not that he'd be a good fit. I see Kevin Love finishing the year with the Cavs. Drummond, yeah, I guess. I'll say Dallas, but if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't see Boston doing anything there. I know that Boston and the Knicks have an interest in everybody, I'm sorry to say. Like, Knicks are monitoring Zach LaVine. Knicks are monitoring Bradley Beal. Hey, Knicks, you do realize these guys are averaging 30 a game and like where they are. Just understand that, Knicks. Shout out to the Knicks for having a good year, though. But, yeah, I see Drummond in Dallas or just in China. I don't imagine if he ends up in China after averaging a double-double for 25.
He can go play with Stephon Marbury, who I think is still balling out over there in China somewhere. Yeah. I made joke of it, but are you disappointed that you'll never get to see the all-center lineup with the Cavs?
Well, they did early in the year when I mentioned everyone was hurt. I believe Thon Maker was the small forward and Larry Nance was the shooting guard. I think it was Drummond, McGee, Maker, Nance. I don't know who the point guard was, but they did go 4 bigs. Thon Maker's on the street now because he was just a temporary guy. But no, I'm not, because unless, as we were mentioning, Christian was mentioning, it's great for you too. It's great for 2K, no question. But like if you're playing 5v5, my team, street, you want 5 centers because you can just post up all the way up the court. Just do post up from one free throw line all the way to the other. But in real life, I mean, the Cavs play 2 centers too much. Seeing 5 would almost make me want to.
Well, it's like the Nuggets experimented with that at the restart last year during one of those just like it doesn't count like tune-up games. They played like 5 bigs. They had Jokic play the 5, which was fun. So just one of those cool little quirky things. When you see a team with like 7 centers, like the 2011 Boston Celtics had Shaq, Perkins, Garnett, Semi Urden, Jermaine O'Neal, and like they had like 6 guys that could all play center.
Been there too. R.I.P. Fab Melo might have been there.
Yeah. So
good one. Yeah, I just want to piggyback off that a little bit before I get to the next question about the trade that happened earlier with Harden. But um, I'm surprised to hear you say you want Kevin Love on this team to get you extra wins. Uh, wouldn't you rather get rid of a guy like that and get something for him now because he's either injured or he wants to be elsewhere, right? I mean, for the most part, it seems like he's the type of guy that now you would get rid of for an end of the bench guy, a draft pick, and see if you hit on it.
Well, if there is a great deal in place, I'm not going to say no. What I've seen is that he was on the market last year. He's on the market now, and nothing has really materialized. There's been nothing for about a month. The reason I want wins is because you can't just keep losing. The Cavs got and I'm reading Return of the King right now by Brian Windhorst and Dave McMenamin. It's a whole crazy process of how they got LeBron that offseason, how many coaches rejected them. Everything has to fall into place perfectly, and you need to lose something great before you can be great, apparently, if you're Cleveland. But, I mean, Kevin Love was a part of that, right? And, I mean, you need good veterans around. I think what so many of these rebuilding teams don't have and what they're lacking, and you can look through a lot of years of teams that fell just short of a lot of things, they didn't have locker room voices. You need guys that have been there. Kevin Love's the only holdover. I mean, Dellavedova came and went, so maybe, but he's almost gone. I don't know if he'll even play this year with the injuries. You need a guy that's been there, that's been in the playoffs, that's won a championship even, to kind of just preach winning habits. I know he's been on the sideline for several weeks now as he's continued his rehab, and I think you need that voice. I don't know. JaVale McGee has won 3 championships. I always think he's kind of a goofball, so how serious is he when push comes to shove? I don't know. Clearly he's playing decent basketball, but also I don't want to see Law. I don't want them to be 10 and 62 when this season ends, right? They were 3-0, and if they just keep losing, by putting Kevin Love in the lineup, you're also making other guys better because he knows how to find players in their spots. I think Garland and Sexton would greatly benefit from his presence. I mean, we've seen Garland average at 17 and 6 assists. He's been incredible because he's had a little more responsibility, and he's confident because his coach doesn't bench him 4 minutes into every game. John Beilein, Mr. Thugs versus Slugs. But I like Love. I just think he's good for the organization. I think he's good for the culture. And I think that the strong relationships he has with the players, that they would miss it if he couldn't be there right with them, as crazy as some of that might sound.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I'm adding like 7 different extra questions in here, but I just want to.
Oh, it's all fine.
I just want to piggyback again, like, with the state of the NBA the way it is, as someone who follows the Cavs, who, like, let's be honest, are a lesser team without a LeBron James, a Kyrie Irving, something like that. How do they get back to a point where they're in the playoffs and vying for a championship when all these guys get here and they want to leave 5 years later?
I got your answer, Christian. Before you go, I got your answer. Ready? I'm gonna put it on the screen right now. You're reading Return of the King. We'll put a 3 where the E is. They're gonna go after Bronny and get LeBron to sign back because that's LeBron's big plan is to go and play wherever his son goes. So the Cavs, that's the long game. Colin Sexton can get. Come on, LeBron, come back. Let's do it. Let's go to the finals. That's where you're gonna get. They're gonna get Bronny, and they're gonna have LeBron, Bronny, and then maybe Sexton gets traded for Anthony Davis. I don't know, something. All right, D-Wade will come out of retirement.
Let's get a real
Anyways.
answer now. Let's get a real answer.
Honestly, my only flaw with what Andrew said is LeBron generally spends 4-year periods since he left Cleveland the first time, 4 Miami, 4 in Cleveland, and Bronny would make it 5 or 6 years in LA. So that would just not compute with the 4-year math of I was in high school and LeBron was on the Heat. I was in college for his Cavs tenure. So, and now I guess 4 years out, 3rd year of that. But just repeat your question real quick, Christian. Is it about how the Cavs get back to relevancy, basically, and playoff contention?
Yeah, basically, with the state of the NBA, where all these guys are kind of picking where they want to go, and it doesn't seem like. I mean, Giannis is the latest example in Milwaukee. Sure, he signed that first contract, but is he going to be there for his whole career? I have my doubts. So how would the Cavs kind of get to a place where they have a superstar and they can lure other guys when these guys just want to leave?
Yeah. So look, this is where I'm torn because I do want them to get a high pick, but I hate watching loss after loss. And I do think that losing just to get a good pick is going to be bad for these guys' psyches their first couple of years in the NBA because you want to come in and you want to win. Derrick Rose was the number 1 pick back in 2009. He led the Bulls right to the playoffs into 7 games against Boston. Few rookies build a legacy in their first season. And I think Colin Sexton slowly became a good scorer at the end of his first year. I think in year 2, we're starting to see that Garland progress. There's a lot to be worked on with defense. But like Isaiah Thomas has been saying a lot of these things, and he's playing with USA against. I think it's the. I don't know what specific tournament this is, but him and Joe Johnson are leading them right now, and he's talking about how where are these defensive coaches in an offensive game at the people that say he doesn't defend. I mean, IT was the best player on the team that went to the conference finals. IT is 5'9". If any of us, actually, Chris, I'm not sure of your height because I've not seen you in person, but if any of us see Isaiah Thomas in person, he's going to be basically our height or shorter. This guy was fantastic. So I think don't worry about the size issue with the Cavs. They're going to figure it out. You know, just like the Raptors won a title with a backcourt. Oh, they had Danny Green, but the backcourt was 6 foot and 6'1". And they beat some very good teams. They beat Steph and they beat Clay, 5 games of Clay. So the Cavs have their backcourt cemented, I think, for the future, unless something unreal comes up. They'll draft somebody great no matter where they end up, right? I think that they can parlay maybe some of these veterans in the offseason into good picks from teams that want to advance a little quicker. And I don't think they're far away. I think next year they could seriously compete. If they keep the play-in tournament, I'm going to guarantee that the Cavs get to the play-in tournament next year. So that would mean top 10. Basically, I'm saying that they're 7 through 10, somewhere in there. They're not top 6. The East is great, but at the same time, I think the Nets were the 3 seed with a 1 game over 500 record 2 weeks ago, and that's changed. But the East isn't as good right now. I think that for whatever reason, this year has every team out of whack. So maybe it'll be different, but they just need one good pick. Give Garland and Sexton the idea and the confidence that, hey, don't worry about any potential trades ever. Don't even think about that. Just play your game, and they're going to get better. Okoro is going to get a lot better. And, I mean, they got Jared Allen signing his long-term extension. So shore up to maybe the 3 and the 4. Maybe Okoro becomes a bench guy. And all of a sudden, you've got a great team that's still young with the sky's the limit. Kind of like Charlotte. No one expected Charlotte to take this leap. They found their Gordon Hayward. They found their LaMelo Ball. All of a sudden, they're 500. They just beat the Warriors on a buzzer beater, and they're probably going to make the playoffs. And you could say it's a weak conference, but who the heck thought that Terry Rozier would also be spearheading a 500 team after he signed that contract we all thought stunk? So you never know how it's going to go.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Yeah, I just don't see like how these teams now get back into the mix. But just moving on from that, back to the trade with earlier in the year with Harden and the Nets. I thought the Nets kind of made a mistake with this. Now, obviously, they'll probably win a championship and it won't matter. But a guy like Jared Allen, who could help them in a big way, gets shipped off. Same with Prince. How big was that for you Cavs?
Well, I think big is the key word because the Nets went small and the Cavs got a great big. I mean, it was huge. When I saw the first tweet, I think it was probably Shams, and it said the Cavs are in on this deal, more to come. 2 minutes later, I see the Cavs get Jared Allen and Taurean Prince. I couldn't believe it. They had to give up an injured Dante Exum. It's not like he was making an impact anyway because he was hurt, unfortunately. They had to give up a future pick. That's it. And that's huge. There's been uncertainty with Drummond since he got here. All offseason, it's like, is he going to opt in? Is he going to opt out? What on earth's going on? And you get a guy like Jared Allen, proven shot blocker. He's blocked every superstar in the league from LeBron to Giannis, you name it. He's blocked him. He's dunked on him. I mean, Ian Eagle, watching so many Nets games, hypes him up so well. Oh, the fro! And just all that great stuff. But he's awesome. He's been a great addition. The one difference between him and Drummond is that he's not going to force shots. He's not going to try and score 20. If he gets the ball down low and he sees a good opportunity, he'll take it. He'll dunk on someone once a game. He'll protect the rim and not try to go for these swipes to ignite breaks because every time you miss, that's 2 or 3 points. So I like that. And Taurean Prince isn't a guy I see long-term in Cleveland. He's a guy I see for now as he can come in. He can shoot the ball well, right? And I think that at the end of the day, it's good to have a guy that's been in the Brooklyn situation that, he kind of grew with the Hawks a little bit, that's just been around some good culture to kind of come in and relay the message, just like McGee has done since he got here.
Yeah. We've mentioned Drummond here a few times. Just real quick before the second part of this question, I think maybe I'm at the mercy of Brian Scalabrine here, right? So a lot of people don't like his analysis. I happen to think he knows the game of basketball pretty well. And I kind of agree with him. I don't think Drummond is as good as everybody thinks. Like he gets big numbers, but that's about it. He does none of the little things, and he's kind of one of those guys that lollygags up and down the court. But that, that's an aside. Maybe you know more because you watch him, but just from games that I've seen in the past with the Pistons and the Cavs, I think maybe it's me following too much with Scal's analysis when I see him, but overrated? Can you be overrated? I don't know.
Yeah, so I'll say this. I also really like Scal. Also, I love watching Scal in Big Three because he's one of the oldest guys on the court, and he struggles just to get a shot off, but he looks like he's having so much fun doing it, and his banter with Michael Rappaport is probably my favorite part, which I'm looking forward to if he's playing this summer. But, yeah, he is overrated. I mean, people that say Russell Westbrook is a stat patter are very wrong. I mean, look what he's doing right now. I mean, does he chase rebounds? Yes. I don't think he makes fancy passes just to get assists. I think he knows where players are on the court. And I think anytime you listen to a Russell Westbrook teammate, they know more than any analyst knows about Russell Westbrook, right? Because he had his rough spots in the playoffs last year, but he's still a very good player. And I mentioned Russell Westbrook. So like, oh, he's a stat patter. Oh, he's getting triple doubles because he's stealing rebounds. I mean, yeah, he's 6'4". If the centers grab the rebounds, that's that. Him and Drummond would never coexist because they'd fight for every rebound and they'd end up with 10 turnovers a game saying, I want it, my ball. It's like, it's my ball, my ball. You know, there's only one ball. That's what people said the issue in Brooklyn is. It's not, by the way. But, yeah, he's overrated. He goes for all these rebounds. He misses a ton of shots around the basket. And if he's not engaged on a given night, your team will lose because he's supposed to be the big guy, right? The reason the Cavs have been, well, they've lost a lot, but when a guy drives on Garland, and he's only 6'1", Jared Allen steps up and says, get that weak stuff out of here, right? He's coming in. He's getting the block. Drummond's not that guy. I don't know. I know Boston needs a center badly, and Rob Williams can only do so much because he can't contribute on the offensive side of things. But, like, Drummond can't help that. He is overrated, and I hate to say that because I thought the Cavs fleeced Detroit last year when they traded 2 players that aren't even in the league this season in a second-round pick to get him. That's all they had to give up. Like, wow. But at the end of the day, he's a liability in so many areas. And while 30 and 20, which he had twice this year, is pretty nice, what's he giving up to get those 20 rebounds, right? What is he doing to get those 30 points? Is it in the flow of the offense, or is he saying basically it's Drummond time and just stealing everything?
On a scale of Kwame Brown to Dwight Howard, is Andre Drummond like right in the middle? He splits the difference?
It's probably a little closer to Dwight because Kwame Brown got roasted on national TV by Stephen A. who's not even telling.
That's what I was thinking of. I was thinking of, like, I hear you guys kind of saying, like, oh, he can't do this, can't do that, doesn't really have some post moves, like, doesn't have a post move that he can commit to memory and go. Like, I was thinking of that whole rant, so that's what made me think of the comparison.
No, I like that. It's like the City of Champions. There should be a parade. Kwame Brown, he's a bona fide scrub. No, I love that. I feel bad for Kwame, I do, but let's just remember that Michael Jordan drafted Kwame number 1. Nobody else would have taken him that high. He was making those decisions when he was playing for the Wizards. But look, he's a good player. He's good enough to be in the NBA. He was good enough to be a top 10 pick. I think what he just has to do now is understand. Rebounds when they fall to you, set screens, and Colin or Darius look for space. He kind of walks up to the guy and he bridges the gap. He's not actually setting a contact screen. And it always baffles me. He hasn't played in a week, but it baffles me like crazy when he does that. He's closer to Dwight. I think it's similar to Dwight where he wears out his welcome, which he clearly did in Detroit. Now he's doing in Cleveland. He comes in with all this hype. Like Dwight in Atlanta, Dwight in Charlotte, it was going to be great. It was this, it was that. He's putting up double-doubles. He had a 30-30 game on the Hornets. Then everything I read is that they didn't like Dwight, this and that. So, like, Drummond was happy to be in Cleveland. I was happy to have him, but not anymore. And I was probably the most staunch Drummond defender until the last 2 games he played before the benching, where he just stopped giving a hoot, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and then lastly, I'll hand it back over to Andrew here shortly, but can the Cavs make a run at the playoffs post-trade deadline, or even, start it now, but post-trade deadline, do you think they can sneak in?
I think it's going to depend because the first thing is that we've had so many games postponed and suspended. Like the Wizards and Cavs have the same number of wins, but there's going to be 2 games against each other. So there's a 4-game difference. All those teams that had to miss a whole week while the COVID outbreak was happening and health and safety protocol. So not every team is going to end up with the same number of games played at this first half break. So I think we have to wait and see till that balances out because there's a lot of teams that are close with them. I'd say no. I think that 3-0 start was great, and there have been flashes of greatness from both Garland and Sexton. We've seen great stretches from guys like Dylan Windler, who's a rookie, Even undrafted Lamar Stevens has looked like a top 8 rotation guy at times, right? But no, not this year. I wish. I think it will be really good experience. Even if they get swept by Brooklyn and lose every game by 50, I don't care. I think just getting in the playoffs, getting in that atmosphere helps so much. I think that if Orlando gets in this year, you'll see that even if they lose again, I don't know what's going to happen with their core, but they lost to the Bucks in 5 last year, but they fought their tails off every game. That comes after getting blown out in the first round the year before. So I think you need those reps. I think that you're never going to know what your core has until they get into the playoffs as a low seed. I mean, look at the Warriors. The first time they got to the playoffs, they were a 6 seed. It was the one with Mark Jackson. Everyone's like, they're not going anywhere, right? They're going to lose because the Nuggets are 57-25, and that's their opponent. They shocked them and won. The Cavs won't do that, but I'm just saying the experience they got in that year, in that series against a very good team, obviously they're way better than this year's Cavs, helped them a lot and would eventually lead to their titles because they started as an underdog. They made teams respect them. I think the Cavs have to get in as a low seed one of the next 2 years. Do that, and then who knows? If Garland has a really good playoff game, they get a shocking win, another player at a free agency might say, hey, I like what they're doing. I just watched them win a playoff game on the road in this hostile arena when fans are back. I want to join them. So I think that's what it's about.
So I wanted to talk and get your opinions on the Celtics here. Because I think a lot of the things you're talking about with the Cavs is very similar to the Celtics. I hear you talk about, getting in, building it, getting experience. These are the things we were saying as Celtics fans in 2014, in 2015, 2016. Just keep building the team. Hey, it's about they made it to the playoffs. It's like, other than they make it twice, it's okay. Can we win some playoff games, please? Can we win around? Can we get to the conference finals? Now the Celtics have built it to a point where it's like, okay, now you really got to show me something. And along the way, we said a lot of things you said. It's like, just add this piece, keep playing the young guys, invest in Tatum, invest in Brown. And that's like the last 4 years. In the middle there, they had a very veteran group. It was Isaiah Thomas and Horford, and they went after Gordon Hayward. But it was going to be mostly a homegrown and kind of assembled team, not like you were going out and just buying a championship. As a Cavs fan, would you rather see them do it that way and just Sexton, Garland, Okoro, just kind of keep piecing it together, building? Maybe they have to add one free agent piece, an Al Horford type guy, and you win your championship that way, but it could be 10 years from now or longer. Would you rather, as a fan, wait and see that? Or would you rather build it, sell it, and do what the Nets have done, where they took a homegrown, really good young team and said, nope, we're selling it for a 2-year window to try and win a championship? Which of those would you rather see as a Cavs fan? Would you sell Sexton and Garland for a chance at winning a title in 2 years and then sucking again?
Yeah, I'll just say this. The Lakers got rid of Julius Randle, Brandon Ingram, D'Angelo Russell, Jordan Clarkson, Lonzo Ball. Look what all these guys are doing. Randle's an all-star. Ball is going to be an all-NBA defender. Ingram's an all-star. Randle is ridiculous, as I just mentioned. D'Lo was an all-star. They gave up one of the best cores ever. I would not want to be the Lakers, by the way. I'll say that. What they have with LeBron is great and AD. LeBron is going to eventually get older. They're going to compete for a few years. Their only good young piece is Talen Horton-Tucker, so I do not want to be them long-term. The Nets, I don't agree with what they did, but I think it's important to win a title right now because they've made big moves before and it failed. I think they just want to get this chip, right? They want to just show New York, the Knicks, once and for all, we are better than you, because that does exist, where since they moved to Brooklyn, they're still trying to earn the respect of people in the city, and no, I'd rather build it naturally. As a fan, the Celtics have made the conference finals 3 out of the last 4 years, which is shocking. I feel like it's the quietest 3 conference finals in 4 years because, LeBron got to you a couple of times, and the other time Miami just really came out of nowhere. That Bam block on Tatum still is shocking to me. But, I'd love a Horford type, and if it takes 10 years to win a title, it means that they were grinding and putting in the work. It means that they built something sustainable, right? I mean, Greg Popovich did something unreal with the Spurs. He basically took 4 players, Kawhi Leonard, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan, over a 5-6 year period. He won a title, but they were in it every year. And before that, when they just had Parker, Ginobili, Duncan, every other year, every third year, they're going back to the finals. It's kind of like the Mavs in the 2000s. They're always right there, and the Suns.
Yeah.
I want
Patriots of the NBA.
Yeah, I don't care about winning a championship every year. I'm spoiled. All three of the teams I mentioned at the beginning have won since I've been a fan. That's ridiculous. They're from 3 different cities. I just picked well, I guess. But they've won. I've been there. I've been through the 4 finals. You know, the LeBron show. It's really, as great as he is, the thing I didn't like is it's always the LeBron show. Who fits around LeBron? You know, what's LeBron doing this offseason? Why isn't LeBron hanging out with this guy? Do they hate each other? What? It's just so... Which is why the only reason I was glad when he left the second time, because they got their chip. He was free. There's no more burden, you know, whatever. I want them to build it naturally, because last time they slowly started to build. They kept getting the wrong coaches. Byron Scott, Mike Brown didn't fit. And they were close, though. They tried. They got Luol Deng and Spencer Hawes, Andrew Bynum, and said, I don't want to be here. You know, just like Eric Bledsoe did.
Yeah. I think, though, like you say, you don't want to be the Lakers, but L.A. can suck for 2 years and then just go get the best free agent on the market because it's L.A. I feel like Brooklyn can't do that. That's why they had to buy it, basically. Yeah. They built it and sold it. I feel like Cleveland probably might have to, if realistically, unless they think they could just wait it out like 20 years and maybe draft the next LeBron or really build it. This is kind of like this endless spiral because Christian kind of brought up the same thing where what does it take to win in the NBA now? If you want to win a championship, do you have to just sell off a good team? And that let's transition that to the Celtics here. The Celtics have not sold anything. They've piecemealed things off here. They had some lottery picks from the Brooklyn trade that they then turned into Tatum and Brown, and one of them became Colin Sexton. That they traded IT in that pick to get Kyrie. You can debate forever whether or not that was a good trade. That's like down the rabbit hole of butterfly effect and what could have happened. But they get Kyrie, worked, then didn't work. He's gone. Now they have Kemba. It's kind of like the final iteration here of this current Celtics team in the short term, with Kemba as the point guard and Tatum and Brown really ascending. People have said, should they have sold guys like Tatum and Brown back in 2017 when that team had Kyrie? And granted, Hayward got hurt, but they had Horford. They had some other pieces there. Should you have traded a Jaylen Brown for a Jimmy Butler to add to that team? Should you have done some of these other moves and sold these guys instead of just saying, well, we're going to hold on for the hope? The Celtics are where they are right now, kind of with this roster. This is it. It's going to be Tatum's and Brown's show for the next 6 years maybe, and the rest of it will be in flux all the time. So would you rather be the Cavs or the Celtics right now long term? Because at least the Cavs might be able to keep building a team that they could just say one day, we're selling it to go get these 3 guys on the market and win a ring. Who would you rather be, Cavs or Celtics right now long term?
Honestly, I mean, the Celtics are actually in a very similar position to the Pelicans, where they have their top 2 guys that are both young and they're trying to figure out everything else around them, right? Because Ingram and Zion are having these incredible years, but there's rumors that Ball might be traded, Bledsoe might be traded, Adams, whatever, Redick. Their bench is weird. They're kind of mirror images where, you know, they're your 2 guys, both under 25, playing out of this world. Tatum's going to be fine, by the way. You know, obviously COVID's taken its toll on him, but he still has shooting splits of 45, 39, and 89. Jaylen Brown, 50, 41. Free throws will get there. But these are 2 guys averaging 26 a game in the toughest league in the world. People also forget, when you look at this year's Celtics, at least, Marcus Smart's missed 12 games. And I don't know what their record has been in that period. I just know that they've started 13 guys in a game this year, that Carson Edwards has gotten some big minutes. Aaron Nesmith's gotten his chances. Jeff Teague apparently is the worst player in the NBA when I read Celtics Twitter. I can't confirm or deny that.
He actually might be.
So he's really that bad this year?
Yeah, he's absolutely inept this year.
Okay. But what you did do is not too many teams are drafting 4-year guys in the first round. I think you got to steal in Peyton Pritchard, who's going to be incredible. I think he could be, I don't know what happens with Kemba, but a potential future starting 5 could include Tatum, Brown, Smart, Pritchard, and then you figure out who your center is, right? Because Tice has actually had some really good moments from what I see, but he's not consistent. Tristan's a little undersized with the guys around him. I think he was better in Cleveland because he had better players around him. I think there's too much pressure on him, and he also plays too much power forward. I don't understand their lineups this year, but I'd just rather be Boston. Like, I'm happy with the Cavs core right now when they've done some really good things. But if I could get a Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown who are happy in Boston, who love, you know, where they are, and I think that off the court they feel so empowered because they've been given such a platform, and it's clear the city loves them. Jaylen Brown's been involved at all the big schools in the area. I know he's spoken at MIT and Harvard before, and I think he's spoken at commencements. It's the little things like that can keep them in Boston, and I think on the court, there's just such a good chemistry. It just seems to me Jaylen Brown's one of the most wholesome players in the NBA, also being a killer in crunch time. He just dominates, and it's so cool because I remember the first Cavs-Celtic conference final. He barely played. His minutes got up as the series went, but it seemed like they were winning in spite of his play. I'd rather be the Celtics. You got two. I think they're both superstars, honestly. I don't know what that word means anymore because people just throw it around, but they're both superstar-level players, and I think eventually something's going to happen. Danny can't keep making this many mistakes, but what I will say is this. The next step for the Celtics is do not end up with the 14th pick because Romeo Langford hasn't cut it, and he's still hurt, and Aaron Nesmith does not seem to be cutting it. When there's good players around in the 13 to 18, they're getting these guys that don't work at 14. So just don't get that exact pick next time.
I wanna get your answer and Christian's answer on this. I'll let you go first, Zach, and then Christian. Who wins a title first? Next, the Cavs or the Celtics?
Oh, that's a no-brainer, and I'm sorry to everybody that knows or might lead. Sorry, but it's Boston. I mean, they've been to the conference finals 3 times. They have so much playoff experience. No matter how good the East is every year, they always find a way to make it hard for whoever they're going against, right? It takes a lot. The years the Celtics have lost, they've lost to some unbelievable teams. Like, no one saw Jimmy and Bam doing what they did last year. The fact that they got past Toronto and they held off a furious Raptors team that had just won a title, that's almost as impressive as getting to the finals, as beating that Toronto team. The Cavs are still, who knows how far, who knows if they even have the right coach. JB always starts out great wherever he goes and then wears out his welcome by year 2. This is his first time with a full-time coach. I got to go Boston. Let's hear what Christian says on this.
Yeah, it's not even close. Boston.
Okay. I just wanted to see. I don't know, Chris. Sometimes I don't know with Christian. He may say the Celtics are going to fall apart, and it's more likely that the Cavs will win one.
100% the Celtics might fall apart, but they have far better chance of making a finals and winning one than the Cavs. Like, let's not be like I'm not drinking.
Hey, sometimes Christian, you're just gonna do the litmus test to know where we stand. I'm just tested. I'm just gonna see where you stand. I gotta know. So, yeah,
I'm not gonna go that far.
Appreciate that, Christian.
Yeah, no problem. Cavs stink.
Oh no, yeah, I rescind my my pleasantries.
But it is, just speaking on these two teams, it's like you have one team that's kind of in the middle of a build. The Cavs are obviously trying to build something. And in the NBA, I mean, let's not forget, a lot of these guys will choose where they want to go. I keep saying this over and over because this is what the league is. Like, in 4 years, every guy signs that first contract. So they get their super max or whatever you want to say. And then when they're 28 and in their prime of their career, with the exception of maybe like Brad Beal, they all leave and go to LA. They want to go to one of these teams, and these two teams are kind of in that similar spot. But just back to you, Zach. I mean, how do you feel this season has gone so far? Like, we have COVID, we have injuries, we have everything going on. How, in your mind, where's the season gone?
Yeah, so I'm amazed it was never stopped, and they didn't say, hey, we need a week or 2 to stop this, because there were times where there were several games not being played because some teams had 3, 4, 5 guys with the virus. Namely, the Wizards, I think, were the first team to go through this. Spurs have 4 players with it right now. I'd call it a success because it seems that we've been able to get some fans now with the Knicks and Nets starting this week. The Bucks had fans last week, small numbers. You'll have fans in half the arenas, and it seems that while it's not noticeable that they're there in all instances, I think it's great that people can safely watch basketball again, because I feel like you need crowd noise in every sport, but I feel like in basketball, in those big moments, every time I watch, I know I don't even need a soundtrack. I know when I'm watching a basketball game, when all the hands go up after a buzzer beater from the crowd, I know that's when something crazy just happened. Like, I wait for that. I look for that. Are you
kidding me? Like, I saw, I think it was Utah maybe, had like, it was probably like 13 fans, but it felt like a packed house.
Yeah, they were one of the first. They were one of the 7 to start the year. They also have a 32-year-old owner, Ryan Miller, who I think is going to do some really cool things. Yeah. His company's also their jersey sponsors. I think that's the only case where that's true. But yeah, I think it's great you can get people in. I mean, I noticed the chance of defense at Cavs games. They've always had great fans, even as they lost. I do remember, I think they were probably top half in attendance all 4 years he was gone. LeBron, they might have been second or third one year. That's also probably because they bought season tickets before they knew he was leaving. But at the end of the day, they're able to get fans safely in. Do I think I'm going to go to a game this year? Unlikely, because I wouldn't trust it for myself. But I think it's great that they can do that safely. Two, it stinks that Durant's had to miss 2 different weeks with these COVID protocols. Then he suffered an injury after missing a week, and he's been out again. But
That's his own fault, though. At first, I thought that was a protocol issue, like why'd they let him play if there was, and then we find out he's walking around face to face with that guy, no mask.
That's fair.
So,
no, that's fair.
No legs to stand on in that situation.
That's fair, but it was the second. It just after he had missed so long. Anyway, I think it's been great that we've also seen a guy like John Wall. I think it's great for the league, miss almost 2 years and return to an all-star caliber form, despite playing on a brand new team that faced Harden drama, whatever. I think that overall it's been good. I think it's cool to see how many guys on 2-way deals have gotten to play more because of these weird circumstances. And I do hate that some of these starting all-stars have missed like half the season for whatever reason, protocol and whatnot. But the fact that we haven't stopped, most teams have only missed 3 or 4 games tops out of 30, given that the pandemic actually got worse since the season began as numbers started to go crazy. But I think as the vaccines have started to deploy and more people are getting it, I think that more opportunities have kind of arisen for more people to show up, and I think that it's a good product. Also, I think that we've seen some great broadcasts this year. I think broadcasters are realizing how much they have to do to make up for the lack of crowd noise, and I really can't name a team that's done a bad job from all the league pass I've watched. So, yeah.
You bring that up, Zach. You and I both play-by-play guys. Christian, that's how we got our start. I was doing play-by-play. He do color. We've all done D3 work. We're used to sometimes having no fans. I laughed back over the summer when you saw like these guys like the Joe Bucks and the Jim Nances of the world and talking about like, oh, it's so hard to call. We really missed the crowds. Like, you clearly never did a field hockey game in the rain, right? On like a Tuesday night. So
I've been there.
I feel like the D3. I talked with Commonwealth Coast Conference Commissioner Greg Kay about this. I feel like D3 broadcasters are all holding up their hands like, "Hey, Jim Nantz, if you don't want to do the games, we're all out of work right now. We'll gladly come and call the Masters or call whatever. I'll call Elite Ping Pong if there's people are complaining that there's no fans." But anyway, just a funny thought. We've been dancing around this whole issue about the Cavs, Celtics. Both teams, the Celtics, I'd say, Boston's a bigger market than Cleveland. So Boston, and of late, they've gotten guys like Horford and Kemba to come, Gordon Hayward. They have been able to get some free agents in the last 10 years, more so than they had really in the last 30, getting real names to sign. But by and large, it's always the Miamis. It's the LAs. These are the New York, the markets that will be able to get free agents. They can just throw the money and guys want to come because it's the big cities and it's warm in some of these places. Cleveland, Boston, you got to build it a little bit more. And as we've mentioned, a lot of these guys in the NBA, and we're seeing it more and more. Look what happened with James Harden. Under contract. He wasn't like he was going into a contract year and wanted out the way like Anthony Davis did. Or the way Kawhi Leonard held out because he was angry over the handling of an injury, but he was 1 year left, and he basically played hardball and wanted to get traded or wanted to be let go. There's guys now who sign a contract, a 4-year deal, and then like after a year they're like, nah, never mind, I want out, and they act like the team just has to trade them and do what they want. What are your thoughts on this kind of like monster here of NBA star culture, and where does it stop? At what point to say a James Harden can do it or a Giannis can do it? Does Joe Harris get to like demand a trade and say, well, I don't want to be on the Nets anymore, trade me to Miami? Is it a slippery slope? Is this sort of stuff and kowtowing to it? Is it good for the league to have these stars have this much control and want more?
Well, no, it's terrible for the league. But here's why these, like the James Hardens and the ADs, get to do it. If these players aren't there, no fans show up. If these players being on these teams is what drives revenue, it's what drives jersey sales. It's what puts extra money in the owner's pockets. It's what pays all the employees of the team. It's these star players doing all these crazy things with an orange ball in their hands for 48 minutes, 3 or 4 times a week. And look, I don't like it, but I think that it's unavoidable at this point. Now that everything's on social media now as well, like the Eric Bledsoe thing. If James Harden was doing all that stuff with those rappers in Atlanta instead of training with the Rockets, then he took off his fat suit, and then he showed up in Brooklyn looking like he had just done like a 2-year Weight Watcher plan in 2 weeks somehow. But, here's the thing. I think it's great that these star players feel empowered enough and that they think that they can do these things. I also love that Bradley Beal is doing what you're just supposed to do. Put your head down, play the damn game, and stop feeding the speculation, right? And these players know everything they say is going to be examined under a microscope. Articles are going to be written about this one quote by 300 people. When LeBron was on the way out in Miami, it seemed that he didn't hint anything about coming back, and he was very cryptic. Like, there's these cryptic messages, right? When you ask Giannis about his free agency and he doesn't just commit verbally, which he can say, yeah, I'm staying. Although Kyrie did that and then bailed, but that's actually better.
Yeah.
That's better for everybody, though. At the end,
I'll have you if you'll have me, Boston.
Well, it was his dad. His dad was the only reason he would have stayed. I have no doubts about that. When your dad's a BU legend and BU's not too far from where the Celtics play, it's 20 minutes on the subway or a 3-mile run, whatever. I mean,
No, it's an hour and a half ride on the Green Line from TD Garden to BU.
I did that every day for a whole semester when I was a student. It's long, though. I agree, it's long, but the fact that you can just do that, you can pay $2.75. Well, actually, it's $3 now. They're going crazy over there, and just hop on and do whatever. But these stars do need to just, at the end of the day, get a reality check. I mean, it's not going to change. I don't think it's great for the game, but what can you do? Can you,
can anything be done? What is there anything to do?
They've tried with the Supermax deal, and they tried getting these stars to stay where they are. They don't do it.
No, and I think that at the end of the day, everything that happens off the court and everything that happens in the bubble and last offseason and just everything that happens with the racial injustice protests, everything is about the players right now. How are the players going to feel about this? How do they feel about this, right? Do they feel empowered? Do they feel comfortable in the league? Obviously the NFL screwed things up so royally with that CK7 who's still getting airtime deservedly. We're not here to talk about any of that. We're talking about sport, but that ties into this, right? The thing in 2016 is why the NBA's done what it has over the last year and a half, right? And why the WNBA did what it did. These players feel empowered. It goes beyond just having a voice in political issues. It also goes saying, I don't want to be here. Like James Harden said, I've done everything I can. I'm done. Anthony Davis, that's all, folks. Oh, someone else picks my shirts. I didn't do that. Eric Bledsoe, I don't want to be here. Joking that, I was at a salon. I was taking forever. No, you want to be traded. But it's a weird.
Where do you draw the line, though, between owners, GMs, teams respecting the players and them as people and obviously wanting to empower them as people? Nothing's wrong with that. And players not wanting to honor contracts. At the end of the day, this is a business. These are employees who sign a contract. If you want to work in an environment where you can't be traded or discarded, then go do something else. But you play a game. These are the rules of the game. This is how this is conducted. It'd be a completely different. Hey, you want to pick your team every week? Go play fan-controlled football. You want to. This is the way sports work. So does it take a team? Maybe it should have been Houston standing up to James Harden and saying, "No, we're not going to trade you right now just because you want us to. We have a decent team. We want to win with you. Some of these guys want you here." It's not like the Rockets were going to completely fall apart and become a lottery team. They could have been competitive. Should the Rockets have been the first team to kind of hold his feet to the fire and say, listen, we want you to play. You don't want to play for us? Then fine. Sit out. We'll fine you every single game. We'll suspend you. The league will fine you. At some point, does it take a team doing that to set an example? Is that the only way this will get reined in?
Yeah, absolutely.
And would that even happen? Like you said, would it just, is that them just going, yeah, the prevailing winds right now, this would be really bad to do?
Well, I think the only way that a player is ever allowed to do any of this is if they win a championship first. And then they decide they want to do something else. Because you signed that big contract. All stars go places. Whether it's Detroit or LA, doesn't matter how good or bad. You sign this big contract because they take a chance on you to lead them to the championship. 16 out of 30 make the playoffs, 8 advance, 4 get to the conference finals, right? That's it. And so you want to be one of the 2 in the championship. All these teams try every year, whether or not they're tanking. On day 1, everyone's realistically competing for a championship. And it's not until those first 20 or 30 games you know your team's direction. Because you could get all these stars, and then all of a sudden you could be 15-15. It's like, maybe we're better off making some deals, selling, getting a mid-level lottery pick. If you don't win a championship, I don't think you should get the credibility to do whatever request to trade. Kyrie did what he had to in Cleveland. He felt like he wanted to lead his own team. It obviously didn't work the first time, but I respect what he did. He stuck in Cleveland after those. He signed in Cleveland before LeBron ever came back. He had no idea. He didn't even get along with Mike Brown, from what I'm reading now in The Return of the King. I didn't know that back then. Luol Deng left them high and dry. Spencer Hawes left them high and dry. That's 5 draft picks they traded to rent 2 guys for 30 games. But Kyrie, homegrown, 3 years, says, I'm going to stay. Signed his max extension very next day, despite everything else that was going on and the rumors he wouldn't. And then he delivered on his promise. He wanted to go somewhere else. The Cavs honored that, ended up with Colin Sexton, so it actually kind of worked out. Not really, but sort of. And, AD didn't win squat New Orleans. 1 playoff series win, and it came as a 6 seed. James Harden and Houston, they were just unlucky every time. If Chris Paul doesn't get hurt, they probably have a championship right now. I'm not going to lie. For those years he was there, whether it's the 4 years with D'Antoni or the years with Kevin McHale, Bickerstaff, whoever the coach was, they were probably the most impressive team in the NBA for that whole run. There was never a year where you said they're not going to the conference finals, right? They had the talent. They did it when they were undermanned, and then they got good. So Harden might be the only exception to the point. He did everything. Like after last year, they got smoked because they went small. That's their fault. If they had Clint Capella, they might have been a lot better in that series. Because look at him now. He had a blocked triple-double this year after missing 13 months of action. But win a championship or spend a long time. Paul George asking out was weird, although apparently it was mutual. Russell Westbrook in Houston, I don't exactly know what happened there, but John Wall might actually be what they need moving forward as far as someone that gets guys involved. And look, Russell Westbrook's great this year. He really is. But John Wall is better guy for them to have, I think, and just stop complaining. Very few owners are willing to just make a power move. I think the only owner I could see, let's just pretend, guys, in 5 years, Luka becomes unhappy, says, I want out of Dallas. The only owner I could just...
Cuban.
Only owner, he stood up to the national anthem, for better or worse. He's done so much. He's been fined millions. He literally got fined $250K to say goodbye to David Stern as like one final send-off, because that's just what whatever. But he lays down the law. He's fierce when he's on Shark Tank. I think he's the only owner I could see making a move like that to say, hey, no, you're under contract with us. You chose us. It's like anything else. Like, if you say you want to have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, whatever, or you just, let's just say, whatever, and someone else cool comes along, you just got to kind of say, I want to go be with someone else right now. Like, no, not like right now. Like, I want out. You can tie it to anything.
Hey, tie this to signing a long-term contract. Christian just got married this year. This would be, if Christian decided, you know what, I know we just put the hardware on this thing and made it all official, but a year in, I'm not feeling it. That doesn't work out too well.
No, and I think that, and congratulations, Christian. At the end of the day, honor your commitments. When you're in school and you commit to working on a project, you do it. You don't just say, I'm going to go join this other group because they have cooler people in it, or you go to college and... Do
you think James Harden, if they say went small and won a championship, do you think he's still opting out this year to say, Kevin Durant and my friends are now in the Nets, I want to go to Brooklyn, even though he had 3 years left on the deal? Or do you think he stays in Houston?
I think he stays. I think that I think he was just tired of the narrative. Also, I don't know what the narrative was, to be honest, because he was unbelievable for so many years.
Because they went all in for him. They went small to make the team like they. It's not like the team was doing nothing. That's what I thought was crazy, because he left them. They made all those moves to go small, and then he was like, "This is great," and then it didn't work. So now he's like, "Well, see ya, I want out."
Well, I think the one thing is they went small for Westbrook more than him, because we saw in OKC that Russell Westbrook couldn't operate with a center on the court when the game mattered, when they had to win games, which is why they never advanced with just Westbrook, and that's why Portland decimated them, because they didn't have any shooters around him, and they tried. Jeremy Grant back then would be great, but it was a different Jeremy Grant. That was for Westbrook because Westbrook worked better when they can spread it out. He can drive the lane. Everything's open. So, we'll see what happens with him in Brooklyn. Houston's going to be fine. I think they're going to end up trading Oladipo instead of letting him walk. I don't know what happens there, but I think that Houston's future might be the most intriguing of any team because they got Wall. Christian Wood is still only 25. There's got some nice savvy veteran guards, coming in like Sterling Brown and David Nwaba, giving them some intensity. They're going to get a nice haul for PJ Tucker soon. Boogie Cousins leaves. That might open up minutes for another young guy. So I really like Houston's situation, even though Harden's gone. So we'll see.
Yeah. Moving on to, I don't even know. Are we a month away now from the All-Star game? Somewhere in
March
here, right?
7th. We're actually only 2 weeks from today, guys.
12 weeks. Okay. Just your quick thought. Andrew and I have gone back and forth on this. I think we're on the same page that listen to the players on this one don't have an All-Star game, but your thoughts, what do you think? Should they have an All-Star game?
What they should do is what football did. Announce the players that get in. They get the credential so they don't lose all-star streaks and you don't have a weird asterisk next to that season. But no, they're doing a dunk contest and a three-point shootout plus a skills challenge all on the same day. I think a dunk contest at halftime. It's going to be the weirdest halftime ever, I'll say. No, why on earth are you doing this? Like they literally interrupted a jersey swap a couple of weeks ago where the security house was like, yeah, so like – you're not going to let them change jerseys, but you're going to let them play an all-star game, which is actually an intense game now with the Elam ending. They're going to start – you play a game that means nothing, that's fine. But when they instituted that plus 24 on the final score last year to honor Kobe, it made the game worth something. It's bragging rights. It's taking them back to their days of playing intense pickup on the playground where they want to win. They want to prove we're better in an untimed game, just like we all play. And I know you guys play all the time. And – I don't like it. If Kobe, let's just say hypothetically, was RIP, it's been over a year. If he was still alive and they asked him about this, he would probably give you the most straightforward no answer that it's not safe given the state of everything, and it's stupid. And he's probably one of the only people I could name that would just totally – and if Dennis Rodman was still relevant in the NBA world, I'd say he'd have something cool to say, but I don't think anyone's asking his opinion because they only want to hear from players. No, give them the honors, Dunk contest, I'm actually fine with, but they probably can't use other people unless they're all masked up and wearing hazmat suits. They don't touch on these jumping over. But three-point shootouts also, I guess, fine as long as you have a new rack for each person so they're not touching the same ones like that because it's a little different than in a game, right? But no, right? Like De'Aaron Fox is spot on. Why? And they're not allowed to say no because it's part of it. So maybe if everyone says no, we could get an all-Cavs all-star lineup because they'd all say yes. No one else wants to play. Yeah, let's go. All-star Andre Drummond despite not playing for 3 months.
I would just give them the credentials, say you're an all-star, and give the players a week off or whatever it is.
Yep.
It's just ridiculous, but
how did the NBA become the tone-deaf league to this and the NFL did it right? Like, what is 2021? I don't get it.
Well, you know why? The NFL is whether you're talking about how long the players' careers are or just how much time is spent not on commercials. The NFL is not for long. It's not going to be the case for very long.
Yeah. We're speaking with Zach Weiss from SportITood and Across the Cavs about a lot of NBA stuff. If you have any questions for him, he will be taking those. You can drop those in the comment section here of the live stream. You can email the show, the360sportshow @gmail.com. Zach, kind of one of our last formal questions. We talked about how the season's gone. Teams with outbreaks and games canceled, moved, shuffled around. Will we and should we get a bubble for any part of the postseason? Do they want to just plow ahead NFL style with this season? And then what happens? Oh, LeBron gets COVID in the finals and can't play. Does anybody want to see that happen? Should we and will we get a bubble? What do you think?
Yeah, honestly, the NBA Finals should be renamed LeBron James team versus the other team because if he gets in this year, it'll be 10 out of 11 years. No, I don't think they need one. If anything, do it for the finals, but do so with the intention to invite probably at that point, I could say a half-filled crowd, right? By the time they're playing the finals in July, I think there's a good chance that we could get crowds making an impact again. I don't know. I think that if you ask me this, and where the state of the vaccine has been, how many people are getting it, and the results, it seems mostly good. So it seems like people are responding well, and it seems that the more people that get it, the less of a chance you transmit COVID to one another. I think that they don't need it per se. If they feel it's a worry, I would say literally just for the finals or just for the conference finals, because the thing about the bubble is that it took a lot away from – and look, the NBA is a gold mine of resources. They don't have to worry about money, but they do at some point need to say we can't lose too much on this. So I think that if this season goes well, maybe they afford it for the conference finals. But I don't know. I think that getting NBA Finals games at Staples Center could be monstrous for the league. Think about what the Lakers normally charge. Everyone's going to want to see LeBron in the finals. Everyone wants to see AD. You know, I mean, Marc Gasol was just in the finals. Not that he's going to add ticket revenue or anything. And then on the other side, I think that you're going to get a real – last year, you kind of an underdog heat. Jimmy Butler was a star, not quite a superstar, but he was playing better than his level. I think that the matchup is just going to be so great. I think they're going to want as many people there as possible because think about how much the tickets are going to make them. So, and I don't disagree with that, but I don't think they need the bubble. I think they should keep it as an option, but not for the whole thing because you're inviting all these people in the bubble. It took so many resources. I learned about how all the food was made. One person made like 5,000 meals a week at one point, which is just incredible work. So I think it's just they don't need it this time.
Awesome. Cool. Zach, I really appreciate you coming on today. A lot of great insight. I liked comparing the Cavs to the Celtics because I think they're two teams that have a lot more in common than people would want to admit, especially on the trajectories that they both have. So tons of great NBA stuff. You can find Zach on his show SportITood and Across the Cavs. He also joins me with Mr. Matt Noonan on the Noontime Football Friday podcast as well. You can follow him at the Triumphant 23. Zach, any last words here? Anything else you want to say, plug, or otherwise?
Yeah, I just want to say it's been real fun with both of you guys. Glad to get to know Christian on this fine Sunday. And Andrew, we talk about hoop a lot. 34 degrees here, but I will be hooping all afternoon. 34 degrees.
You'll be outside? You'll be outside?
I'll be outside hooping, baby. I'll hit some threes for both of you. I'll point up and say, shout out to the 360 Sports Show as I do my 360 spin layup after that.
Awesome. Nice. Awesome. Zach, again, really appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon, maybe sometime after the trade deadline as we ramp up maybe towards the NBA postseason. So give him a follow. Appreciate your support, sir, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Right, thanks, guys. Have a great day.
You too.
All right. That is and was Zach Weiss from SportITood and Across the Cavs. Lots of great stuff. I think I'd be interested to see. He referenced a couple of times the Return of the King book there, LeBron's book, and he was saying, "Oh, Kyrie was saying this and that." A lot of propaganda, I think, probably from LeBron, right? In that, would you imagine,
yeah.
Christian?
No doubt. Yeah, that's all it is, probably. It's Brian Windhorst, which is LeBron's guy. So I mean,
God, yeah, windy. I love. I think who is it? Is it Fred Toucher? I think on Toucher and Rich talks about like what do you think LeBron's opinion of Brian Windhorst is?
Yeah,
just this like guy who's just followed him around since he was like 15.
Yeah.
And just he's lived to document LeBron's life. Like I wonder what LeBron deep down what he feels about Brian Windhorst.
I wonder if he's does he tell him to go away or does he tell him to follow Bronny next?
Yeah.
Family ties.
We're gonna have a lot more NBA stuff. So we had Zach on today to talk. He talked about the numbers. Like he's not gonna get into ferreting out all the numbers and the permutations for like trades and things like that. We have Matt Murphy for that, our NBA cap and draft analyst, and he'll be coming on before the NBA trade deadline, which is March 25th. So on the 21st, we'll be having Mr. Matt Murphy on to do exactly that. We have him to sort through all the numbers and the Excel spreadsheets and the cap and all that. Yeah. So we have Matt to do that work for us, so we'll be having him on. But if you didn't catch Zach live, on the show. You can certainly go back and rewatch this edition of the show on any of our platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, and Twitch. And you can also catch the podcast. Just search for the 360 Sports Show through Sounder FM or wherever you get your podcast from to go back and hear Zach's appearance. And if you have questions for him that you didn't get to ask on the show, you can certainly email the show, the360sportshow@gmail.com. We can get those on to him, and he can deliver his answers next week via email. So, lots and lots of NBA stuff. Let's try and run through the rest of the sports world news here. One of the biggest things from this week was the Carson Wentz trade in the NFL. Christian, I'll get your thoughts on that. Was it a good trade? What are your thoughts on this Carson Wentz deal? He goes to the Colts for a second-round pick and a conditional pick. It was a third-round pick and a conditional, whatever.
That could be a first and
second. I think it was basically 2 seconds that one of them can become a first-round pick if Wentz plays 70% of the snaps and they make the playoffs. The Colts do. So, your thoughts?
So initially, yes. Look, I think Wentz, when he's healthy, I think he can be a pretty good quarterback. So I think it's good for the Colts. But I also, on the other end, am like, could they have gotten somebody better? I don't know. I don't know what's out there at this point. So did they kind of strike too early? I think the price is okay, right? I don't think anybody's crying over a second or third pick. And, I would want my team to be in on a guy like this because I think, he might be washed. We don't know. He might be too injured, too this, broken down, whatever. But the talent level is there when he's on the field. Like, people forget he was, before Nick Foles took that team to the title, he was on MVP caliber season. So the talent is there. And I think if you put him with a team like the Colts, get him away from Doug Peterson, and obviously he's been since gone now, but I think you put them on a team like the Colts, they have the roster, they have some talent here, and I think they're really a quarterback away from being in the mix. So I like it for the Colts just because now they have a quarterback that can just stand in there and actually take a snap, unlike Rivers. So now you add a little dimension. They have the running game, they have all these pieces, so now you have the quarterback. So I think I like it for the Colts, and for the Eagles. Yeah, I think this is the best you could have done.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's one of these rare instances where it's a good trade for both teams. Could the Eagles have gotten more for what's the perceived quality of the player? Maybe, but also that cap number is pretty prohibitive. So it was going to be a really unique situation. The Colts were probably one of the only realistic teams that was going to want to actually follow through and do a deal because, as you said, they're a quarterback away. They're a team that has got every other piece in line, and they made the playoffs last year with Phillip Rivers. They don't want to go get young guy. Let's just plug in Brissett again. No, they could conceivably win a Super Bowl this year if they get a good quarterback. So 2 second-round picks, they'll gladly let that be a first-round pick if they make the playoffs or win a Super Bowl. So that's essentially a second-round pick anyways from where that should be. So great for them. They get a quarterback who is looking to kind of resurrect himself a little bit, and they can contend in the AFC. I think they're already one of the top 3 teams in the AFC. If Wentz is able to play the year, he's healthy and can even come close to reaching his level where he was before he got that ACL injury. For the Eagles, this is probably the best you were going to get in return. However, the pressure, it sounds weird. I think there's more pressure on the Eagles now than there is on Indy because the Eagles now, hey, Hurts is our guy. And now, new coach, young quarterback. We know how Philly is. They have to now put Hurts in the best situation to succeed. They can't just say, well, we got rid of Wentz, so we can, who cares if we suck? We're going to, build this for the long haul with Hurts. No. You have to draft offensive linemen. You have to draft weapons. Put the pieces around Hurts. If you really are believing in Hurts this much that you were going to ship Wentz out instead of him, you got to make him succeed. Or else people, it doesn't matter, first-year head coach, they'll be calling for your head in October if you suck. You don't think?
Why.
You don't think that city will turn on that team in an instant?
No, they will.
If Hurts doesn't succeed? They need to be at least 8-8, 9-7 this year.
Yeah, but you're assuming Hurts is the guy. I'm not assuming that.
You think they make another move? You think they
try pick in the draft and they have Hurts to deal? if they like a guy up there. So they could go get a guy at the top of the draft board this year, and that could be their guy. So I'm not
All
convinced
right.
Hurts is their guy yet.
So we have to. So yeah. So we got to wait till after the draft. So I mean, what do you think? So who would they go after?
It's tough to say, but if they identify like a Wilson or maybe even Fields, someone like that, and they want to move up, they can trade that 6th pick, and maybe they trade Hurts to another team and get another piece. I'm not sure what exactly they do, but if they like one of those guys in the top 10 of the draft, there's probably gonna be about like 4 quarterbacks that go in that range. So they have the opportunity with that 6th pick just to move up and grab a guy.
I honestly think that is a better solution than riding it out with Hurts. I think if you have any questions about Hurts at all, you should just do that, because then at least you have brand new coach, brand new rookie quarterback, and they work on it and build it together. There's going to be this pressure on Hurts now, and there'll be pressure to make it work right away, which it can't. It's impossible. They're not going to. Who knows if the Eagles are even good enough to be a playoff team? They have so many holes to fill. So I feel like I agree with you. If you have questions about Hurts at all, you got rid of Wentz, you're going to get his money off the books, and you're going to have you could go out and just get a better rookie quarterback, and then it's kind of like you've just now moved the dial. Okay, you moved the goalpost. Now is when we're starting. Not a continuation of Hurts in and out last year, and now by trading Wentz, we're like saying you're the guy and putting that pressure on him. If you have any questions at all, I know Brad Kelly, who, again, we're going to have him on before the NFL draft in April, or beginning in May. I think it's like April 29th through the beginning of May. Yeah. I think he's with you, Christian, where he thinks that there's a possibility that Hurts isn't even their guy and that they go out and make a move. A lot of moving pieces there. What is the next domino? There's currently no first-round quarterbacks who are on their same team that were drafted between 2009 and 2016. And there could be more. Deshaun Watson could make that year 2017 if he gets traded. Is that going to happen anytime soon? Garoppolo, Mitch Trubisky, all these guys, there's just so much uncertainty. Does any of it get cleared up before the NFL draft, or is it just going to drag out here for a month plus?
I have no idea. Like, this is the one thing that, like, there's going to be a lot of movement, and I think you'll see it probably more draft, like right before the draft or maybe a little bit after. But once those guys kind of figure out who they're identifying as the next guy, especially in the quarterback, I think whether it's before or after, it's going to be around draft time when, stuff starts hitting the wall and everybody's moving and, a bunch of teams get their quarterbacks.
Yeah. The Patriots are a team obviously in need of a quarterback. People say, would you have taken Carson Wentz? I say no. I really am, and I think we can kind of read the tea leaves a little bit. I think that they didn't go out and make a move like this. Garoppolo is the only exception to a guy that I could see them wanting, because they know him, he's been here before, that they might give a little bit to go out and get that guy and bring him in. Anybody else, and I even feel like drafting a quarterback this year, I'm kind of coming to the conclusion I don't want the Patriots to do that. I think where they are as a team, they're not the Colts. They're not a quarterback away from like making it to the AFC Championship game. They have too many other holes. Draft linemen, draft receivers, draft your safeties are old. Maybe get another middle linebacker, get another pass. They have way too much to figure out on this team. And I think fans aren't going to want it because it's more of the long rebuild. But I think them not being involved, and really you're not hearing, aside from Garoppolo, you're not hearing them willing to like overextend and go out and get any of these other quarterbacks. Because I think Bill just wants to rebuild the team and put himself in maybe 2 years from now being where the Colts are, where they could say, sure, now we'll sell 2 picks to go out and get an actual legitimate top-tier quarterback to come in and help us get to a championship and be a 2 and 3 year window. I think that's where they're at. And yeah, bring Cam Newton back to just for $1 million to be your quarterback for another year while you build the rest of the team.
Yeah, I don't love it. I think they should be on. They should at least be in on every guy and taking a look at every guy.
But at what
Their
cost?
quarterback. Well, yeah, sure, but their quarterback situation is one of the worst in the league. So, I mean, you got to figure that out, and obviously, you have a lot of other holes to fill. But at the same time, until you have a quarterback, you're not going anywhere. So it doesn't matter if you have holes or not. That's
I'm
just the
saying,
way
what
the
good
league
does
works.
giving up like 4 first-round picks to go get Deshaun Watson do if your team is only going to be 9-7 at best
Well, sure,
because
that
of
doesn't mean you
everything
go
else?
after Watson, though. So, I mean, I think they
So
should
what do
be
you
in
have to
on
give up for Garoppolo? Like, that's what I'm saying. Why go out and get that guy if that's what if they'll take a second rounder, sure. One pick,
might
sure. But I
give
think
him
if it's
Gilmore
more
or
than that,
something? I don't know.
if it's more than that right now, I wouldn't do it. I would not be giving an arm and a leg to go out and get a quarterback right now because there's too many other problems with this team. I don't want Cam Newton back. I'd rather have Ryan Fitzpatrick. Give me Fitzmagic for a year. Cheap, and let him quarterback and at least have a somewhat salient offense.
They should be able to do both things. Like, I don't think it's one or the other. They should be able to do things. They have $60 million in cap space. Obviously, the coach is making probably $25 million. So, between those two things, I guess, how much are you left with? It depends on, what the Crafts want to do, but they should be able to do both.
Yeah. We had a retirement this year. Now, it's kind of cross-sport, but it's an NFL name. Tim Tebow retired from Major League Baseball. Minor league, technically. That's where he was. He was in the Mets minor league system. And everybody kind of knows the story. He wanted to be a quarterback. He could have stayed in the league and played some of these hybrid positions and been on a team, have just been a offensive weapon. He said, no, I want to be quarterback or nothing, which I give him credit for sticking to his guns and saying, my dream is playing NFL quarterback. I don't want to be anything other than that. And he goes and tries to play baseball. And, did it work? I don't know. I mean, from what I hear, he was an okay baseball player. Clearly, the guy's an elite athlete. So he could probably have tried to go play any other sport that he wanted. But he's retired now. And kind of looking back, do you think he made a mistake? Could he have been Taysom Hill if he wanted to? Should he have been, is it the same? Is he just too different from Taysom Hill? Because Taysom Hill's a faster guy, more of a slasher, at least running with the football, than Tebow's a bruiser. But do you think he made a mistake by not saying, I'll just be a weapon instead of a starting quarterback?
Yeah, I think he's a notorious backup. I don't know how much of a weapon Tim Tebow would be now. I mean, like, he had that it factor early in his career, but the way the league is going, like, he's not up to snuff with any of those guys. Even Taysom Hill, I would take Taysom Hill over him in a second because, number one, Taysom Hill is just faster, obviously, and he can actually throw a spiral. I don't think Tim Tebow's ever thrown a spiral in his life. So, I don't know. I think Tim Tebow is he was grasping at straws going to the minor leagues of baseball, and the fact that he made an announcement that he's retiring is like, okay, what are we doing? He hasn't been in the mix here for the last 8 years?
Yeah. What year was that he came into the Patriots, their training camp, and then he got cut?
14?
So, yeah, it's got to be
before. I don't even know.
Let me see. Tim Tebow, Patriots. Yeah, I'm trying to remember because he was there for
13,
training camp,
yeah, 13.
and then it was kind of a big deal about it because Belichick made him not do some sort of endorsement deal, and he didn't do it for the betterment of the team, and then got cut the next day.
Yeah, feels bad.
Yeah, 2013, and then he was out, and then he was on the Eagles offseason practice squad for 2015, and that was it. But he never saw the field again.
No.
So yeah, it's just a question. Should he have? Hey, the guy did what he wanted. I'll give. He did it his way. The dude wanted to play quarterback. They said no. He said, "All right, I'll go play baseball then."
Yeah. Neither worked.
Very, very, very poor man's Michael Jordan. So, anyways, last football note before we get to some other things. Have you watched any of this fan-controlled football thing?
No.
So I think I'm intrigued by it. It's interesting. Just like we were intrigued by the XFL and all these other things, football and non-football times to watch. The problem with all of these leagues, obviously they're out to make money, first and foremost, right? And so if they don't immediately make money, a lot of them fail. I think a lot of these things could be successful if there's enough investment for a period of time on whoever's starting it. The Rock has now taken over the XFL. I think that's a guy that's got the capital that's willing to invest in it for a couple of years to see if it works.
Yeah.
And the comparison I want to make to all these things, in fan-controlled football, it could stick around. What happens, though, is it's like in college when there's an event, right? And the school says, hey, we're going to run a bus. And if we get 50 kids to sign up, the bus will take you from campus to this concert or this thing or whatever, this trip for free. And so you sign up, and then the day comes, and they're like, sorry, we canceled the bus because not enough people signed up. Ugh. All right. And then a couple weeks later, you say, oh, there's this thing happening on. We're gonna have a bus. Sign up for the bus. What happens? You say, I ain't going to sign up for the bus. It's not going to run. They didn't run it last time. Why am I going to think they're going to run it this time? So you don't sign up. And then what happens? The bus doesn't run. And then after time, the university says, why are we going to run buses? Nobody signs up. It's like that. All these things, these leagues, they have to, and the problem with the university is to just buy in. Run the bus with 10 kids instead of 50. And then maybe you get 15 the next time and then 20. And it's like, hey, they always run the bus. And then before you know it, you need 2 buses because you get so many kids signing up. It's like that. I think these leagues need to just buy in. Now, obviously, if they're hemorrhaging money, then no dice. But fan-controlled football, it's interesting enough, especially if they start to integrate the betting thing with it, too. They'll get people. Its app was the second highest app in the App Store this week behind ESPN the last 2 weeks. So people are interested. Commit to it for like 2 years if you're the investors and see where it goes. Because if you just run the bus once and say, oh, not enough people did it, well, we're out, then no fans will ever invest in any of these things down the line because they'll just look at it as a thing that's going to be here today and not tomorrow. So what's the point?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I didn't follow it much, but there's so many like of these offset leagues that never work. So
yeah, I like the Twicky_me says, this is your water check. Drink some water. Some comments here. The Twitch comments are always interesting. I will say, thank you for running. I mean, all I've been drinking is coffee today. I got my Nitro Cold Brew with maple cold foam from Poorhouse, which is in the pier. Big shout out to the Poorhouse for hooking me up this morning with the Nitro Cold Brew and a scrumptious breakfast sandwich. But yeah, I have not drank any water this morning. So thank you for reminding me. The Twitch users reminding me to stay hydrated. Facts. I needed to hear that. So anyways.
Doesn't everybody?
Yeah. Easy to forget. So running along here, Australian Open has concluded, at least on the singles side. Djokovic wins the men's side. Naomi Osaka wins the women's side. Osaka, I'm really intrigued by her because she kind of came out of, I mean, if you really follow tennis, she didn't come out of nowhere. But she beat Serena a couple of years ago. She's kind of started as one of these, like a little bit of an underdog. 7 major titles now for Osaka. Is she poised? I think she's ranked number 2 right now. Is she poised to become the next great long-term women's tennis player?
I mean, it certainly seems like it. Like she's always in the mix, and I think this is her 4th Grand Slam title. And she's kind of come on here in the last, like, I don't even know, 5, 6 years. I mean, this is her 7th appearance. So she's been around, and she's kind of gotten over that hump of like winning a few titles here, and this is her 4th, I believe. So yeah, I would say so. I mean, it seems like she's always in quarter, semi-final. So she's always in the mix, and I mean, do we even need to talk about the men's side?
Well,
it's like the 3-headed horseman of Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer. One of those 3 is going to win, so it is what it is.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's just kind of like, oh, go figure. But He does close within 2 slam titles of Federer and Nadal. So I guess it's like this race of one-upsmanship.
Yeah.
So it's the only intriguing thing. But like you said, yeah, it's just the rotating wheel between those 3 guys. I will say, I mean, how old is Federer now? I mean, he's still very competitive.
He's like 30. He's in his upper 30s.
He is 39 years old.
Yeah.
So he's still got it. And Nadal, I think, is sneakily older than you'd think. Or maybe not, 34. Maybe it's just because he was so young when he really burst on the scene. But
yeah.
So those guys, I mean, Federer is going to probably hang it up before any of them. But yeah, I think that's the only compelling thing. Is not that those guys won, but like who's gonna have the most.
It's only a story if someone else wins. That's literally I don't know. You just assume one of those guys is gonna win. So
yeah. This question's from Nick. We wrapped up the football talk, but we'll answer the question. I know you guys aren't currently talking about football, but do you think if Cam Newton has a full offseason and the Pats get receivers in free agency / draft, do you think they do good next year, or is Cam done? I think that they have to address. My feeling is, don't even worry about the quarterback right now. There's too many other holes. Go after, like you said, skill position players. Build it through the draft. Get defense. Fill in the rest of the offense. I honestly at this point would be fine if they bring Cam back. I'd rather them go after like just another bridge guy like a Fitzpatrick. If they can get Garoppolo for a 2nd round pick, woohoo, awesome, great. Because then you're kind of getting the best of both worlds. I really don't think an offseason is going to do much more for Cam. I think they'll be the same. I think instead of being 7-9, maybe they're 9-7. They're able to win. He's not as out of it after COVID where they play like terrible against the Broncos and the 49ers. I think they maybe win another game in the division. You know, they're able to beat the Bills one of those games. So it's a difference of 2 games. So is that good enough? I don't know. I really don't think numbers-wise you're going to get much different from Cam Newton. Maybe you don't get as many turnovers, but I really just don't think what he does fits what that offense should be capable of. I don't want to tailor it to just try and win with Cam Newton again. I think they tried to do that this year. I'd rather go out and get other pieces, and if it can't be Garoppolo, I'd rather them go get a guy that can at least throw the ball. I'd rather them draft another quarterback in the 3rd round again, or just roll with Stidham. I don't want Cam Newton back. I won't be shocked if they bring him back though. And yeah, I think he's done.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's pretty much done. I'll just piggyback off that. I think he's like the guy can't throw, so that's kind of an integral part of football is to throw the ball, especially in this day and age. So
yeah,
give me a guy that can throw a little bit more over a guy. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Newton. Like I loved what he brought to the table in terms of like the guy that he is and, you know, the teammate that he was here. That was all good stuff. But unfortunately, you got to win games. Like that's just, you know, that's the way the league works. You can't just go out there and, you know, and if he doesn't get COVID, do they win a couple more games? It's possible, but we don't know. And I don't think a full off season makes a huge difference. I love that is one of the prime excuses right now for Cam Newton, or at least it was in Patriots time, is that you know, he was cut short, they signed him late. Well, they did that to themselves. And also, if he has a full offseason, all this, that doesn't fix his arm mechanics. It's just
exactly
that makes no sense.
Well, and plus, part of the problem with how bad Cam was throwing the football is that you couldn't evaluate any of your other skill positions. I have no idea what Devin Asiasi or some of these other guys could be, the tight ends that they went after, Dalton Keene, because Cam couldn't throw to them. I'd see them run routes and be wide open on very like bread and butter Patriots plays with like the bunch formation, play action fake, drag the tight end across, backside guy runs a post, and that guy's open in the flat, and you just dump it to him, and he runs for 30 yards. How many times have we seen him do that with Hernandez and Gronk and guys like Algie Crumpler? Like, you can just toss it to a guy. Ben Watson last year with like no Achilles and no MCLs was able to like manufacture plays. Cam couldn't make the throws or make the reads. I don't know if a full offseason cures that.
You couldn't get it to James White in the flat, for Christ's sake. It's like
Yeah.
You can't get it to a guy. You can't flip it over one lineman to a guy in the flat like your best running back with the ball, like catching wise. Forget
Yeah.
about it.
It's not like if it was just him looking lost out there and really not knowing, the play is designed to do one thing, and he'd see it and either take too long to throw and he's getting sacked, or he would airmail the throw. If I thought he just wasn't seeing things and didn't understand the offense, maybe at full offseason house, like you said, he needs to be like put up on the lift and worked on for like a couple of weeks with those mechanics. And at this point, a guy that's that old, you're kind of not going to be able to fix that.
Yeah. I mean, for all my gripes with Newton too, though, like real quick, like the Patriots personnel sucks. I mean, let's just not like sugarcoat it. They blow. So if they had better personnel, maybe that gets them to one more win, two more wins.
But if you draft any personnel you draft this year, how are you going to get to evaluate them if Cam Newton's your quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, it's one and the same, I guess. But
I'd rather have a guy that can throw the ball. That's what I'm saying. Fitzpatrick. If you can't get Jimmy Garoppolo, at least Fitzpatrick, can spin it, and so you'll get to see what some of these you'll be able to evaluate your skill position players. The only position we know anything about after last year is our running backs and our offensive line because they just pounded the ball. That's it.
Yeah.
I have no idea what any of these other guys are capable of. So we're both out on Cam Newton. The NHL, oh man, we were so excited for this. So excited for this. The outdoor games. And I want to try and pull up the picture. I'll search for this while you give your thoughts, Christian. But they postponed tonight's Bruins game. Is it till like 9:00? They were set to play yesterday outside. I think it was the first game. I think it was the Knights and the Avalanche, and they got through a period and the ice was melting, and so 7:30. They had to. There was an 8-hour delay. Ugh, that's an awful look for the NHL. The scenery, gorgeous. I understand why they wanted to play during the day because, oh my God, I'll pull it up here in a second. But bad luck for the NHL to have to delay a game in the middle of the game 8 hours. And now you're playing at night and shuffling it around. So it's kind of
at night. It's like they're playing at midnight. What do you mean at night?
it's
the middle of the morning.
It's like falling apart here for them. But your thoughts on this whole situation with the NHL and the outdoor games?
It doesn't really bother me that much. Like I know, like it's gonna annoy some people, and it is kind of a cluster F. But like, I don't know. This is the kind of thing that you kind of deal with. It's like it's a random place that they've never gone to. Really, it's an outdoor game. They could have planned it a little bit better. Maybe tested the ice before you go on it. But overall, I don't mind it. And I'm sitting here at midnight watching hockey. I'm fine with that. So. And tonight the game's at 7:30, 8 o'clock. So, presumably that should be late enough, I hope. And the spectacle is still fantastic. So I'm going to watch it no matter what.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it looked like yesterday at the start. I mean, oh my God. Yeah. It's gorgeous. It's fantastic. It's just a shame that you didn't get to have that backdrop for the entire game. So I also heard, did you hear any of Chris Wagner on 98.5 The Sports Hub this week talking about being up there for the game? How it's like, it sounds like stuff that like small like colleges go through where it's like, they're like, hey, we have to get dressed at the hotel and then drive ourselves over to the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Is that a little weird? I feel like, why was it not like all there for them? Shouldn't this has all been like a like I thought this was supposed to be like all a complex and like these guys would be like right on top of this thing.
Yeah, you'd think, right? I mean, look at the place though. I mean, it's like, I don't know. I don't even know what's around. It looks like in the middle of nowhere, some guy's beach house and you're in his backyard, like it's just like, now granted, you don't have a beach house, I guess now because you're not swimming, but still like, It's pretty insane, the views, but yeah, I maybe the planning wasn't up to snuff. I'm not sure, but it seems like the NHL missed the mark on maybe the sun, right? The sun is hot and it warms things, so maybe it might melt the ice if it's standing there all day. But hey, you know what? I still like it.
Hot take from Christian: the sun is hot.
Yep.
Tremendous insights.
That's all we need.
Other part of, to tie in the Bruins, there's been rumors this week, thoughts floated around. The Bruins should trade David Pastrnak for Sidney Crosby.
Yeah.
What do you think of this?
One. I think this is moronic.
Anything else?
Case closed.
So obviously you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do that trade. No. Why? Explain.
Because
I'm with you. But
Pastrnak is one of the, presumably, right? He should be one of the elite goal scorers for the next 10, 12, 15 years maybe in the league. And he's much younger. Not to mention his contract's pretty stellar. Like, people don't look at the contract, but it's like top notch in terms of like best contract in the league maybe. And also Crosby's older. Like, look, if you're not giving up Pastrnak, I would take a look at Crosby. Obviously, if you're not, like, I don't know, maybe don't drink so early. But I would say overall, I think Crosby is obviously what he is. He's one of the greatest players of all time. That goes without saying. I'm not giving up my elite goal scorer for Sidney Crosby when Crosby's on the latter half of his career and Pasternak's just kind of coming into his own here.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm not doing that deal in a heartbeat, because what you're gonna take? We talked about this team was old and salary cap strapped, and maybe they just should ride this year out with these old guys, and then like you just kind of keep supplementing it in the coming years with draft picks and young guys and some smart free agent signings, and you're gonna go out and trade one of your best young players for an old guy who's making a lot of money. It's completely backwards. So
I don't really have any more than that. I just think it's just kind of random, number one. And if Crosby's available, yes, you take a look at him, but you're not giving up one of your elite goal scorers when you can't even score as it is. Get a guy that's on the latter half of his career. It just makes no sense.
Yeah, I agree. Just kind of, I always check the Twitter feed before we get ready to sign off, because it seems there's always like we get off air and then some major trade or something goes down. Not much other than Gary Bettman saying that the sun has always been our enemy. I don't really know what that's supposed to mean. It makes it sound like the guy wants to live up in Alaska, 28 hours of darkness, 28 days of night, whatever that is. This is a weird quote. The sun has always been our enemy. Okay,
then.
That's one of those weird, like, as a reporter, they're taking the quote. It's like, oh, okay.
I don't know what questions. To do with
this. No more questions. Any other further thoughts, notes, Christian, from you for today?
No, I got to take a break from the NBA after talking so much Cavs today, though. Jesus, I'm like dying over here.
I think it's an interesting spot. I mean, I know we had Zach Weiss on the program to talk a lot of NBA, and he works. He's done PA and stuff for the Cavs. He's clued in
stuff. Yeah, he knows
with things in that organization, along with being a big fan. So he's clued into a lot of stuff over there. He wants to see them. He's won championships with LeBron, right? So he's done that, been there, done that, and he wants to see a homegrown team win a championship. Unless they get another LeBron, I think a market like that it's not going to happen. So I think in like 3 years they'll probably pull a Nets and sell that whole team to get somebody on there. And I wanted to compare that to what people think the Celtics should have done, and should have traded away Tatum and Brown back when they had. I mean, think about this. This is what we can end on. This. I know we talked a lot of NBA today, but there's a lot of NBA stuff happening. USA Basketball is playing last night and has been playing this week, and they're playing now. Isaiah Thomas is playing really well. That guy hopefully is going to showcase himself and maybe get a job again in the NBA. You can make the argument that the Celtics really screwed this thing up. Potentially. We don't know. We don't know down the line what will happen. But, they decide not to give Isaiah. They with the injury stuff, they were like, we're not going to give this guy the Brinks truck. So we're going to trade him and get Kyrie Irving. We're going to give up one of these other first-round picks. And we've signed Gordon Hayward. And this is our window. It's Kyrie and Gordon Hayward and Al Horford and maybe Tatum and Brown. One of those guys becomes the ascension guy, piece, young piece, part of this veteran team. And when Hayward is ready to go in 4 years. Tatum is now ready to become a superstar. Well, we all know what happened. Hayward gets hurt, yada, yada, yada. But what if they hadn't traded for Kyrie? What if they started that year and said, Terry Rozier, you're our starting point guard. Or Marcus Smart, you're the starting point guard. And Hayward goes down and Tatum steps in, and now it's the same thing, but Isaiah then comes back midway through the year and joins this young group. The personality of the team is different. And maybe in 2 years from then, Hayward's he comes back and is willing to buy into more of his role. Isaiah maybe decides he's fine coming back and being the sixth man, even though maybe they paid him. And you've got more of the cultured team that you preserved that you had built, instead of having, we went out and got this veteran team to try and they tried to win. They wanted to win a championship in 2017. They almost got there, losing 2/3 of what was supposed to be their big three. But in doing so, it kind of ruined the dynamic of that entire team. The talent on that team was ridiculous. It just, afterwards, the personalities didn't mesh.
Well, let's not forget the plan for Danny Ainge was Tatum and Brown, see you later, Anthony Davis, Kyrie, and Gordon Hayward. That was your plan. And it blew up in his face. But ultimately, that was plan A. Like, let's not get it twisted and say that this was the plan all along. Tatum and Brown, here we go. No, it was Kyrie.
And Kemba Walker. Like, totally not the plan.
Yeah. Plan B, plan C. What are you on now? I don't even know. But, I mean, you're way down the line. And obviously, you look back and now, and I would still make the trade for Kyrie, right? We didn't know how much of a puddle he was. On the court, he's phenomenal, and he's playing great this year again. But the trade, Danny lost that trade. I mean, it's like, it goes without saying now at this point. You lost that trade, and it turned it out because Kyrie was what he was, but Sexton's averaging 20 points, and he could help you here. Or that pick, whatever you picked there, could have helped you this year and beyond. So, I mean, I think it's fair to say you lost that trade.
Yeah. So we'll see. Our big thanks today to having Zach Weiss on the show. Lots of NBA insights from him, kind of ramping us up as we get towards the NBA trade deadline and a lot of moves. That league is fascinating with how much shifting and moving goes on. The same could be happening in the NFL, and we'll keep you up to date with all of that stuff as well. A lot of quarterback movement. The carousel is spinning in the NFL. But yeah, big thanks to Zach Weiss coming on for the first hour of the program. If you missed it, you can go back and rewatch the show on any of our platforms. You can also catch this show as a podcast through Sounder FM or wherever you get your podcasts from. And remember to like, follow, and subscribe on all of those platforms to never miss a show. So, Christian, enjoy the Sunday. It's nice and sunny out there. Remember, the sun is hot. And from our good friend Twicky_me, make sure that you stay hydrated. Drink some water today. Oh, boy. All right. Anyways, that's going to do it, folks. Thank you for tuning in. And we'll catch you all next week, live as always at 11 a.m. on Sundays. This has been the 360 Sports Show. Take it easy, everybody.
Stay hydrated because the sun is hot.